folks, welcome back to the workshop. Looks like it's time for another hammer day today. Bunch of hammers on for repair, so I want to see if we can get a couple of them fixed up. Starting off with this Metabo. This is the MHEV 5BL brushless Metabo hammer. Right, it's running and it's hammering. Although that doesn't sound too healthy. Problem with it is, the customer says it's in hammer mode, but the chisel is not locked in position. So when it's in this mode here, the chisel should stay in the position or the orientation that it's in. Maybe switch it over into neutral, which it's actually not got into for some reason. When it goes over to here, the chisel should be able to spin, so you can select what orientation you want. Handy if you're using like a 2 or a 3 inch spade bit or something and you want it down flat. But when it's like this, on this mode hammer, the chisel should be set in one location. But it's not. It's still rotating whenever he's hammering. So he wants that fixed. Now, it's a cheap little part for replacing, but a little bit of stripping down to get onto it. It's only a plastic gear you need to replace. But, as I've learned from doing this repair before, you might also need to replace the metal fork inside, because it can also wear and the plastic gear mightn't move up far enough. So replace the gear, the plastic selector, and the metal fork. So remove the tool holder first. The C-clip is generally packed up with grease and dirt. Get in here, get these out. Take all that out. These all need to be washed down. The socket head here, holding on this plastic cover. Pull that off. We plit then for holding the spring. I don't think this grease has come from the seal. More than likely it's just the tool holder grease put onto the chisel. She ain't got much torque on the high speed, but plenty on the low speed. That's actually the wee one I tore apart, the wee copy Makita. Chucking it was obviously terrible, but it's a nice comfortable light wee drill to use. Just stuck on an old 10mm Makita chuck instead. Does the job. Good for this stuff. Pull that all off. Why wasn't it selecting actually? That's it's on there. And this is the actual wee pickle fork. We selector lever on side. Lever's going on, but it's not engaging. Oh, there it is. See, it does not want to turn. See, he's in the hammer mode okay, but it's not come back into neutral. something going on here. Strip it down anyway, see what's wrong. So I'll clean all this out now that we're at it. This is the main problem. It's not even the main problem. These wear out. The teeth get worn over. See these square teeth? They wear and become rounded and slip very easily. And as you can see, that is not worn. It's meshing onto this gear. And this one gets pushed forward with that metal fork inside. Doesn't look worn. Now what I've also seen happen is them break. There's another problem there though. A much more serious problem. Needle roller's gone, I think. This here can also wear out as well, which I have seen happening. The steel bushing here, seen them break. That one looks alright. Yeah, way too much play on that. Now, the needle bearing on the conrod, on the piston, that is actually gone. All the actual rollers fell out of it there whenever I was actually washing it out, so that is gone. Inside, this crank is badly worn. It's actually dished in there, so it is. So that's failed and taken out the crank. So that's now not going to fit the new bearing. It'll run, it'll not be that great. We'll have to just see what all we can do with this thing. So it needs a new piston now. We'll see what else it actually needs. Run this far, as well clean out the rest of it. It's not to say this hasn't done much work. It's definitely been used. There's the two seals there, metal ring first, and that there must be a rubber or a plastic ring. That's the sleeve then for holding this here spring. So we'll wash them out. We'll wash this out. Right, this thing is just a disaster. The way she's not got onto neutral was only to do with this plate. That's an easy fix at least. There's a wee burr here. The plate's dug in, so we can file off that burr, get that moving again. To replace the plate, it's 40 or 50 euro. It's only the aluminium part, you have to swap all the bits over on it. So don't want to replace that, when a file will do. The reason why she's not locking in, not sure. I'll stick her together here the way she's meant to go and see why. That's going on there. And that'll be in there. And that's going together like that. Obviously this will be locked into the housing. That's locked in. The spring is pushing this back. It can't move. It's all to do with this here, this metal gear. It has to have enough travel. So as you can see, it's worn there. Where this has been pressing against it, this was actually moving it. The small spring is actually pushing this back, and the lever on top is pushing this little pickle fork to push it forward. So you can see the wear on it. Compared to a new one, yeah, there's nearly half a mil. So that's a little bit of the wear. To help by replacing that. This isn't worn. The teeth are starting to wear. So we'll help again by replacing it with a new one. You want at least have flat edges and it'll actually grab a little bit better. The only other way to get it moving more is to do that the last time. Put a washer onto this to pack this out a little bit more. At least then, if the washer fails and breaks, it's not going to cause any damage. The rubber will just break up inside. That's the only way I think I can get this working again correctly. Other option, I'm going to cut a few mil off these square teeth. Allow this to travel further onto the housing. And you're also going to change position of all this stuff, so that's a little bit more risky. For now, I'm going to chance the O-ring. Something like that. Something with a tight enough fit and just a few mil thick. This lever will actually push against it and engage it more, because this man wants it locked in position. I don't think he's actually using the neutral position very often. He doesn't often want to rotate the chisel. If he wants to rotate it, if it locks in the front way, he can just take out the chisel and move the chisel around or something. He wants it set in one position all the time. So we'll go with that, rebuild this thing with this O-ring. Now the other thing I do need is of course the con rod. So we have that. Not cheap, costed me nearly €30. And I also changed the O-rings as well, the piston and striker, seeing as we have it disassembled. I was never really a fan of these machines. Brushless motor and a corded machine never really made sense to me. But as this man actually pointed out to me himself, it makes it a lot lighter and more comfortable to use. So that's why he actually likes it, which is a fair point. But let's get the last few of them in for the repairs. Certain things are wearing out when they shouldn't be. Starting to wonder if it is all that great of a machine. Rid of that. Replace the new one. You can also replace the needle bearing itself, but that's a little bit harder because they're actually pressed on as well. So you really have to press these out, and when you do, they might be a bit slack then. Let's get that put on first too. Let's get that grease spread around the steel bush too. Slide this boy over. This isn't technically doing anything. This is just filling the void because this is a hammer only, not boring. Here we fork and going now. Slide that on. Put that to one side. We'll get the rest ready. This is the piston end. This is the tool holder end. Bit of grease on here to start. Slide this all back in. Also just give us a quick file. Just to remove that little burr. That's it. Your cover over the top. Hopefully it should be running better. It should last longer now with the new O-rings and conrod. But you should now be locking on the hammer mode and not rotating. It's just rotating. And as soon as I move that, she's engaging now. Straight away. That's much better. Locked now. Definitely locked. No twisting the butt now. Give her a wee test out here now. Make sure she's hammering all right. Wait till she warms up. That's her running, hammering, locking the chisel. The hammer always starts off a little bit weak as they actually start running to begin with. That'll keep getting stronger now the more that hammer's run. Just needs to get the grease moving around the actual piston and striker, get it all to the right locations before she gets full hammer. That's her up and running again. The Metabo MHEV 5BL brushless 5 kg hammer only. Good wee chasing hammer because they're nice and light. But that is a common problem. Starting to rotate in the chisel whenever they're not meant to be. Keep an eye on it. Normally this just wears out. If it does, make sure you replace that wee arm as well. If you have to, stick an O-ring to make sure it definitely engages. Next up, we've got a wee Bosch SDS drill, a GBH 4/32 DFR, and this one might be a little fault finding mission. Customer says there's something wrong, it won't start, and he can't figure it out. So luckily this one, he's given us a little bit of a note and a heads up. He says he's checked the lead, he's checked the switch, and he's checked the brushes. He thinks it might be something to do with the field. Generally, when you get something on that someone has already looked at and couldn't fix, the best thing to do is just ignore everything that they've checked, just check everything again. Ignore all, start afresh. So first thing, does it run? No. But that is a massive cable. That's very thick. Yeah, too thick for that grommet. Looks like he's split the grommet to try and get it to fit in. Just tipped it up. So there's going to be a little bit of rewiring through the inside of this thing anyway. Those leads can't be left like that. First off, let's see what the fault is. So we've seen a bit of use anyway, a bit dirty. Brushes are well worn, but technically not worn out. Still a little bit of meat on them. Tell if they're worn out completely, if the pin's popped, or if it's not making contact by actually testing both sides. So this brush should be touching the armature and making contact across the armature over to this brush, so you should get continuity across them. What we do, so the brushes haven't popped and they are making contact. So first off, it's not the brushes. So next up, we're looking at the lead. Yeah, that's a little bit of a hack job. Clamps aren't really holding anything. And slit and tape all over the place. Lovely. So we're going to be putting a new cable on this anyway. Right, we're getting power to there. To the actual strap connector anyway. It's going all the way back to the switch itself. Right, so the leads are okay. So the neutral on this is actually wired direct. The neutral is not switching. That's just on all the time. It's the live that actually switches. Right, so it's not the switch. Leads okay, brushes are okay, and the switch is okay. Next up, we're onto the common one, the field, which can be troublesome on some of these Bosch 4s, the older and the new ones. The vibrations can cause the contacts to snap. So the best way to do that, without stripping the whole thing apart, take the field out to test it on its own. What you do is just pull out one of the brushes, or even just pull it partly out and just have it sitting up here so it's not actually touching the armature. There's another problem there, look. That's the insulation washer on the bottom of the armature. That's just flapping around. That'll need to be pulled off. Pull that brush down so it's not making contact with the armature. So now you've isolated both sides of the field. You can test one without getting a false reading off the other one. So generally you'll have 4 contact points. The 2 brushes will be 2 of the 4. So normally the other ones will just be down here to the side. So it's not actually the field, it could be this brush holder. And we'll see if that runs now in that position. No, still nothing. Right, so where's this going wrong? Just test the whole way across, which isn't easy to do with only two hands. That one works. And this one's not. Very badly wired, this. That works, the lathe. It's the neutral not working. But the power's coming through the lead. It's just not getting onto the motor. Right. Either way, it's going to need a new set of brushes anyway because they're worn out, and it's going to need a new cable with all this wiring tied up. Hopefully not a new switch, because these here screws are very badly damaged. How this thing is, just get in and see what the problem is. Sometimes you just have to open them up, which somebody's already done. Two screws missing. Pull off the cover, pull off these two leads. Put the handle to one side. Right, first off, give us a blast of the air compressor. Doesn't matter if I found the problem or not yet. Still have to get into this to fix that insulation washer. Get rid of them brushes actually, because they're worn out anyway. So that needs to be taken off. Bearing's actually okay. We take the bearing off to get that off. The brush holder itself, the actual selector, if we're going at the forward and reverse. You don't have to strip this all apart to take that off. All thing you have to do is get the brushes out of the way, either take them out completely or just move them up. Turn it halfway. You can see this little spring here, cause it to flick back and forth. Line up to the center of the spring and just pull it off. So we've got 4 points on the field. These are the 2 points where your live and neutral come on. So these are the 4 points coming from the field. You should get in continuity across both, which this is not. There's the problem. One broken field. Two broken parts of the field. Both of them are actually gone. Everything's fine. Everything else is good, apart from this. All we need is a field, an actual brush holder, the selector. That should be fine. So the field, it's a problem from the beginning. Right, give it all a quick wee wash down, tidy it all up a wee bit. See if I have a field in stock, or see if I have to order one in. Give the body a good clean out as well. And we'll also just change the lead as well. Tidy this up because I can't actually leave it in that kind of a state. Look at that. One field and stock. This actually is quite a common wee repair. So I always try to keep one of these fields in stock for this one and older model GBH4 as well. So continue with this here. Clean the rest of it down. I'll get this put back together again. Right, this is the insulation washer. Literally just pulled off the bearing, took this off, put the bearing back on again. You can replace it if you like. It is available from Bosch. Only costs about €1, but not much point in having this sitting an extra couple of days just waiting for a piece of plastic to come on. All that's doing is just shielding the bearing from a little bit of the dust. That's just sitting above the bearing down here and just stops some of the dust from getting onto it. Helps keep the bearing a little bit longer, but there's a rubber seal bearing anyway. The dust shouldn't have too much of an effect on it. So fine just to do without it. I always check these because they can get a little bit damaged in shipping. And transit, make it a little bit of a bang. Bend over sometimes. Make sure they're straight. It's just dropping straight on. Them spade contacts on the bottom. The only thing actually holding that on, these two little tiny screws. Don't over tighten them or you will just strip them out. drop on your air deflector. On top of your armature, or this bearing, make sure you fit this rubber ring. I just like to put a little bit of grease along the edge of it, just to help it slide on. It's a little bit worn. Put on the air deflector, there should be a little arrow telling you which way this goes on. If you're replacing the armature on this, all you'd also have to do is just take out them two center screws here that holds on this metal plate holding the armature on. Take them two out, actually pull out the whole armature too. Nice and quick and easy to change it. Refit the little brush ring, same as before. Line up these two metal springs into the center. This time just give it a wee twist and push it down into place again. And I can quickly just test that, make sure it's now working. Spot on. Also just change the brushes now when it's handy. Before we refit it, I'm just going to change this lead. Looks like someone's been chewing at this before. That's not coming out. Head is completely stripped out on it, but at least it's on the neutral one. With the live one, you can't get this here screw out. You have to replace the switch. You can also replace it for the neutral one, but you don't have to. The neutral one isn't actually switching. This is on all the time. It's actually the live. It's only doing the switching. So we can actually wire this neutral on direct. It'll have no difference on the switch at all. So just forget about that one. I'll use their tip here. No reason actually. Kinked. It's not broken. So that'll be alright. Now what I will just do is replace the screw. Because that's all rusted. If I leave that on, the next time that lead has to be changed, that's going to strip out. So we'll replace that. Always helps to keep a wee selection of screws like this, just for these occasions. And I'll also fit a new grommet because that last one was split. Round piece of foam just sits on there. And so it just squeezes down. Here you can use whatever you like. You can use a strip connector, use the exact same thing again. I'm just going to use a crump, or you can even solder it on if you like. For some of the smaller Bosch drills, the likes of the GBH 2/24, some of them switches, the lead actually comes down from the top, so it'll actually be tucking in along here. They're not both coming up this side. Sometimes they meet in the middle. If they're like that there, you'll be very restricted in space. You'll have to solder it together. A wee bit of solder and heat shrink and tuck it on along the side. For this one, crump will be fine. Now, does she run? Lovely. It's one Bosch GBH 4/32 DFR. The new lead, brushes, field, was salvaged with switch. I actually just wired the neutral on direct. Common one to go. 3 contacts in the field. That's the part number there, if you ever have to order one. That's her, up and running. This is a big demolition hammer, but a cheap and cheerful one. This thing doesn't even have a brand. No name on it, just a model. JH65, made in China special. These here, pretty standard. Basically, it's a big Titan hammer. You get them all over the place. All the main hardware shops do them. Like Screwfix and all out there. There'll be a cheap and cheerful budget brand hammer. Even Parkside, and that'll probably have the exact same machine, just in a different colour. It might be cheap, but they definitely do the job. They do the work they're designed for. As you can see, this one has obviously done some work, but they are cheap and cheerful, so no spare parts available. When they break, you dump them, you buy a new one. That's the way they are. This one, we're going to see if we can do anything with it. Customers left on a few machines. This is one of them. The rest of the stuff he's done, it's just a couple of your standard things. Makita drill, DeWalt nail gun. Things you've seen 100 times before. So we'll just stick to this one for this video. There's a bit of a spark coming out over here anyway. More than a bit, a very bad spark. But it's only a China machine. It could be like that from you, to be quite honest. Wouldn't worry too much about that. It is running and it sounds okay. But a lot of vibrations out of it. You can feel the whole thing shaking. You actually feel it shaking the whole desk here. There's why. There's absolutely no kick out of her. She's running, she's doing all the motions, but she's not hammering at all. There's something wrong with her up here. The striker bolt does sound awfully solid. Good luck getting a chisel for this thing anyway. Is that broken or is that the way it is? No, that's it. No wonder it's flapping about. Terrible design. Chisels normally come up a good bit further. So the actual tool holder stabilizes them. As you can see, when it's that short, there's a lot of play. Right. See if we can get on here. Let's see what's sticking. It's actually stopping it from hammering. Get the extendo bar on her. I would say that might be part of the problem. Striker bolts all eaten away. See, it's all chipped there. It's actually worn all the way in. That thing is well worn on. There's not much I can do with that. To fix it properly, you would have to replace that striker bolt. But obviously I can't get that part. So that's going to have to do. More than likely it's just not getting the whole way down because it's jamming up. Probably on this here. And so all the little pieces of broken metal from that striker bolt. So if it can't come down far enough, or the chisel can't get in far enough, you're not going to get any hammer. So the only thing I can really do is just clean out that bit of debris, put it back together again. You can just see how cheap a machine it is. Nothing's even hardened correctly. See in the tool holder here, that hex chisel goes into. It's actually wearing there, look. There's just a rough cast around here. Either that, or it's worn away. Even just the bolt holes. This is just sandwiched between the housing here and the bolt. Just bolting this on, clamping down on this plate. It's all chipped away, look. So cracked and damaged. So that there is not hardened correctly. If that's not hardened correctly, this definitely isn't. So this is actually hardened too much. It wasn't hard enough, it was too soft. This would have mushroomed over. But it's not, it's actually worn on. Chipped away the sides, and with sharp edges. So it's too hard. And the chisel, when she's hitting, is just chipping away the metal and wearing it down extremely fast. Seems damage down here, look. This thing, basically, it's just a waste of time. There's not even an oil seal or anything on it. It's just bolted on and nothing else. Just take it back on and forget about it. Hammering anyway. Right, that one definitely can't be fixed. The actual problem is the speed. This is running way too fast. As you can hear, whenever you start up the machine, it does hammer, and it hammers when it's slowing down. When she gets up full speed, the hammer's kicking out. She's just stopping completely because it's actually lost the harmonics. It's running that fast that whenever the piston's going back and forth to throw the hammer, it's actually losing that rhythm, and she's going back and crashing against itself. So instead of throwing the hammer forward to hit the chisel, she's coming back to the piston and making the whole hammer shake back and forth, instead of actually throwing the hammer to the chisel. So it's actually the harmonics that's actually gone on this. The motor's just running way too fast for that. There's probably a speed control or electronic module up on here or something, and that's gone. In other words, that cannot be fixed. It's actually a motor problem, not a hammer problem. But that striker bolt is actually worn out anyway, so he's not going to get any more time out of it anyway. These type of hammers, these demolition hammers, cheap and cheerful ones, you just don't leave these on for repair. They're not worth it. Unless it's something like a lead, that's about the height of what you're going to do with this thing. You can't even get a switch for it. Brushes, maybe, but you'll more than likely have to modify another set. Fixing these things isn't going to be cheap because a lot of labour involved in actually stripping these things down. Even changing the lead in this is going to cost about 25 or 30 euro. This thing itself, to give you an idea of why, is probably off of eBay, and they only cost about £150. They're dirt cheap for what they are. Like for an equivalent Bosch or Makita one, you're onto about £1,000. So these things are a lot cheaper. So generally, they're just not worth fixing up, especially when you can't even get the parts you need for it. Leading brushes, that's as much as you can do for this thing. You'll not even be able to get a chisel for this. So that one ain't going to be fixed. Now, this is the old red, an old Hilti TP800 Hammer. Now, we said before, not looking at Hiltis anymore. This man is not getting the memo. There's just no talking to some people. This has been going on months now. This man wants this machine looked at. He's been told and explained that we no longer look at Hilti machines, just won't listen. He's actually looking for us to get the parts that he wants for this machine, for us to order them in and sell them to him. Fair enough, but he couldn't even tell us the make or model of the machine or anything. But then once he has the parts, he wants to leave the machine on with us for me to fix, which makes no sense whatsoever. Found out it's a Hilti. We've told him we're not looking at it. We don't look at them anymore. He's explained what model it is. We've explained to him them models are gone. There's no parts available for them. Still going on. He wants us to fix this here machine. Get the parts in from Hilti and to fix it. This thing is ancient. Hilti, as you know, are notorious for scrapping parts. Once machines off the market for so long, that's it. They just get rid of all the parts. You can't repair them anymore at all. So you can get some of the breakdowns from Hilti if you ring them up, but they may not have any of the spare parts for it. Once it's obsolete, they get rid of them all. So some of the TE805s, that's it. You can't get parts of them anymore. This thing isn't even a TE machine. This is a TP. This goes back even older again. This thing here is ancient. There ain't a hope in hell of getting any parts for this machine. He's even supplied us with breakdowns because he says you can get these parts. Here's the numbers. This isn't the right machine. He's giving us breakdowns for other machines, newer ones than this. These here, they're actually TE805. You can't even get these parts. That's a TE704. Can't get them parts either. That's a TE001. Definitely can't get them parts. But this thing is even older, so there's no hope of getting anything for this unless you're going to something like eBay. But we don't do that. To humour them, get rid of them, we've told them come on, take it on and get a quick look at it. So this is what this is. Quick diagnosis, see what's wrong, and if it is possible to be fixed. So what she is the TP800. And that is old. Doesn't actually give a year on it. There's an old pat test sticker on it, but that's it. Proper old, looks like Swiss made machine. A very good machine, mind you. These were unhealthy, were proper made to last forever machines. This thing here would have been a tank. And just looked at where the chisel is. The end of it. This thing's that old. I don't even know how to take that chisel out. It's that old. Anyway, quick diagnosis. Switch it on, see what she's doing. That's the first thing. Sometimes these really old Hiltis, the motor will be running perfectly, but you get no hammer out of them at all. If that's the case, we pour a bunch of oil or grease into the opening up in here. This goes into the crank casing. That will get it hammering again. These really old ones were built properly to last. We'll stop hammering whenever the grease ran out, and that's it. The seals and all would still be good in them, but that's only if it's not hammering. If it's making a bad sound, it ain't going to be fixed. Yeah, like that. That's not going to be fixed. Simple wee problem this is. Obviously been on before too. Two different types of screws on it. It's either stripped out gear teeth, broken the con rod, or smashed up the piston. Gear teeth. It's actually stripped out the gears on the armature. So this gear here, that's gone. It's not just a part it needs an entire new motor. In other words, there is not a hope in hell of repairing that there. No parts available. You can ring Hilti all you like, cry down the phone. Any parts they had for this thing, they would have dumped years and years ago. Tell them what the problem is now and just explain that it can't be fixed, it won't be fixed, it's not able to be fixed, it wouldn't even be worth fixing, even if you could get the parts. That there would be costing a couple of hundred to replace that motor, plus a lot of labour as well in actually stripping this thing down to replace it. Because also you'd have to strip apart the whole gearbox assembly, take the whole hammer section apart, clean all that out to get rid of all the wee bits of debris and broken teeth inside of here. Plus whatever damage they could have done as well to other gear teeth and mechanisms inside. So that would have been expensive anyway. But with no parts, it can't be fixed. Hopefully now you'll take the message and stop going on about it. Next up we have another Bosch. This is a GSH 5 CE, I think. That's actually a 240 volt as well. Red lights on as well. Might get burnt out set of brushes, maybe. Either that or it's an armature. Normally when you hear them spluttering like that, there's armature gone. But sometimes it can just be the brushes have actually worn down that much. They've left a wee gap between the brush and the armature, and they just need to be replaced to actually get it to run and stop the sparking. And if it's not that, it is the armature. We'll test the brushes here first. There we go. Worn all the way down. See, somebody was messing with us. These are worn too far. Oh no, there's why. They've actually worn wrong. Instead of running straight down, I've been nice and flat here. I've got so short, but they've started wearing sideways. They've worn onto the brush holder here, and they're sitting at an angle. So that's why the pin probably hasn't popped. I thought maybe they were worn down that much that somebody's already pulled the pin out to keep them running, which is a very bad idea. That's actually what has happened. That's where the pin was. There would have been a wee small metal spring inside of that hole with a wee plastic insert over the top. That would be built in to the brush, glued on up in here. So whenever the actual carbon wears away, it exposes the wee piece of plastic, pops out on the spring and pushes the brush away from the armature, stopping the machine and letting you know to replace the brushes. But some boys think they want to just get a little bit more extra time out of it, so they pull out the spring and the cap and they keep running it. But once you keep running it, you wear all the way down to the wire. This here wire and this one. And that is where problems can start, because that there can short out your armature or burn it out. We're not going to know if it's done any damage until we put a new set on. It's never worth pulling that pin out. You might get a little bit of extra time out of it, but if you damage your armature, it's going to cost you €200 instead of 20. And that's €200 minimum. Could need a service and other bits as well. One. Also give this a wee blow out with the compressor before we put the cover on again. We'll just give it a quick test here for now. See if it is sparking or not, because this could still be gone. Now, all shear on. So, there's been damage done. These will have to bed in a little bit because I actually fist the brush with little grooves on it to help it actually bed in to the shape of the armature, to the com bar. That will cause a little bit of sparking whenever you put in a new set of brushes, but if you push down it, normally that sparking will stop. If you run the machine and put a bit of extra pressure on the brush and that sparking doesn't go away, you know straight away that there's actually damage done to the armature, and it's not just the brushes. She's still running, it'll still work. There's no point in replacing the motor yet, but there is damage done to that now. It will not last as long as what it should, because somebody pulled that pin out and it ran it all the way down to the wire. Had I just changed the brushes or left it on whenever it stopped, that would probably be okay and wouldn't be sparking. Now eventually that motor will need to be replaced, but for now it's up and running again. We'll keep them going for now. May as well run it on while it actually packs on, because at the end of the day, because whether I change it now or wait till it actually burns out, it'll be the same part being replaced. So may as well let them get a little bit more time out of it now, even though it is still sparking. Next up is a Makita SDS drill. What do you think? Obviously not. Might say Makita, but it sure as hell ain't one. This here's a wee cheap and cheerful SDS drill. People are just selling them counterfeit with the Makita name on them, just to get them DeWalt as well, or Bosch. These actually came in loads of different brands. Every place in China was actually making them. They were probably just made to order. So you get them with all different brands, names on them. Companies would buy them, put their own name on, sell them. They're actually a decent enough wee machine for what they were, but they're obviously not a Makita, they're not a Bosch, nor a DeWalt. Just a lot of people are actually buying them in and just sticking big brand names on them and selling them as counterfeit. Might say Makita, but it ain't one. But the actual tool itself isn't all that bad, to be quite honest. These here wouldn't be all that young. This thing could be 20 years old and still running. So SDS drill, you can have it SDS with rotary, or drill only, or with or without hammer up here. We'll see what this one's doing. Obviously, it's a cheap and cheerful one, so you get no parts for these things. Sounds like a motor. No, maybe not. It's not actually burnt out, but it is struggling. There's just something going on with it that it doesn't like. Could be burnt out, but could also be something simple. We can fix the simple stuff. We can't replace a motor. I think there might be grease in this. Is that a recent addition? It's not. That's a big daub of grease. Don't know if that's factory fitted or not, or somebody's just come in after and put that on. It's thick and it's hard, so it could be the original. I don't know. If it's the original, then this thing's never been worked all that hard. Yeah, that is the original grease there. Just put a big lump of it on. It's just stuck to the top. Just want to see if it might be a bearing or not. Well, it's been worked, but not an awful lot. Wow. Look at that. How was that still running? Here's the problem, I know. There's the oil seal. Shattered the bottom bearing. There's the problem. Because that problem hasn't been addressed, it smashed the actual housing up in here. It's cracked all the way across. How was that even still running? That's unreal. Right, this thing ain't worth fixing. That's completely gone. It's amazing what even a cheap and cheerful machine can endure. It's not to say this has just failed recently. He's been running it like that for some time. Anyway, it ain't worth fixing. Must be sitting up there. Yeah, this gear goes over the armature, and this is actually driving the crank with a clutch. Forget about that. Mind you, if you had left it on and that bearing actually failed, this would have been able to be fixed. Just goes to show you, when your machine starts making a different tune, starts playing a different tone, or sounds like it's changed or something's wrong, get it looked at. It's making a different sound, it's for a reason. Not even going to put that brush back in again, just in case he keeps trying to run it. Leave it out so it can't run again. That's one fake Makita, not worth fixing. Now, next up is a wee Bosch 5. That is you'd nearly think that's hunting like a generator or something, but that there's actually a set of brushes. The brushes on it are worn out or broken, and they're just not making correct contact. Well, at least I'm hoping that's what it is anyway. They're worn. Badly worn. Yeah, there we go. There's the problem. This one's not connected to anything. The wheel lead's actually broken. That's right. Set of brushes will fix this up. Nice simple one. Or at least I hope it fixes it. There's still also the chance the armature could be damaged, but we'll not know that until we run it with a new set of brushes. Let's see, somebody got sick of looking at the red light, so they just pulled that wire off. Now, does she run better? And is it going to spark? It is sparking, but it goes away and you put pressure on it, so they should be alright. That spark might be just from it bedding in. But we'll also just adjust that. Cable clamps not actually holding the lead. It's just clamping the bare cable. How does somebody fit it like that? I mean, what are they expecting to happen? It's just going to pull out and get destroyed. If you are shortening the cable, make sure you take a few inches off the actual cable. Don't just cut it up close to the top. Cut a fresh bit, a few inches down, so it's less likely to be a break in the bend or something. And also for this particular model, very, very short ends. There's not much of a gap between the cable clamp and the actual terminals. Last thing, make sure it hammers. Yep, that's her. Nice simple fix. New set of brushes and just shorten the lead. That's her. Now, we Hikoki Hammer. This is the H41 MB2. Actually only 2022 machine. Doesn't sound healthy, but it's actually not the armature. This is just a set of brushes. Sounds like the brushes are worn out. And there's a gap between, just causing that spark. Hoping so anyway. Yeah. Not even lifting up off the spring. What was this man doing? How did they get like that? Brushes will cure it, but as soon as the brushes are in that kind of state, there could still be something wrong with the motor. Maybe it's on its way out or something. It shouldn't be wearing down like that. Or maybe it's just the way this is actually wearing on. So that's sitting flat against the brush holder here, the brass. For some reason this side is actually getting worn away on the side of the brush holder. So when this motor's running, it's turning this way, pushing it against the side of this brush holder over here. It's probably clearing this side. But the lead itself isn't actually burnt, unless the brush is actually arcing on the brush holder or something. But odd. But with a new set of brushes, it should run alright. Just make sure the holders are clean. Just give us a wee clean out as well, get rid of the dust. Now this one takes a number 43 brush. 99043. That's the way the spring should be looking. Not like that. The spring doesn't have the tension to push the brush down. It's not getting proper contact. So instead of the power being transferred straight onto the armature comb bar, it starts arcing across and flashing. And that one there, going by the size or the area of the brush making contact, surprised that didn't do a little bit of damage to the armature. That's the amount of area it should be touching on the armature, not this. So let's say the power being transferred through that. Could easily have been overheating the armature, but still with that brush gone, this isn't pushing against the armature, so it would have just been arcing across instead. Maybe that's also what caused all this here to wear away. New set of brushes. Definitely get this running better anyway. It's going to be running perfectly, but it'll still run. Even if it's still arcing a wee bit, it'll be fine, because otherwise you're going to release the motor anyway. And even if you have to do that, because you'll run it on until the armature fades completely, because you'll still only just be replacing the armature and brushes anyway. But I'd say this should run well enough. It's just a set of brushes. Give her a wee try here. Actually runs perfectly. Not a thing wrong with that. €15 set of brushes. That gets this thing up and running again. Just make sure she's actually hammering too. Yep, that's her. A nice wee cheap and easy fix. And she's ready for work. This here is one of the wee FF grip hammers. These are a cheap and cheerful brand hammer, but for the price of them, they're actually quite good for what they are, and quite popular as well. We actually sell these here in the shop too, but we can never keep them in stock because you can never actually get them. They're a very popular machine simply because they're a very good price. This is basically like a small Makita hammer, but more than half the price. So as you'd imagine, a lot of people actually like to go for these here instead of the bigger, more expensive hammers, especially if they don't have an awful lot of work to do. If they're not using it all day long every day, these here are a very good option. A lot of hire shops actually going for these here as well now. Not the most complicated machines, quite basic, but quite reliable, and a good hammer out of them. This one I thought I'd throw up the bench because it actually has a different problem. It's not actually that old, it's only a few weeks old, but the front is actually unscrewing. So this could easily go back to FF grip for a warranty repair, but it was bought by a customer here in the shop. Quite a good customer, and we don't want to leave him without a hammer, so this is probably going to be a very simple repair. So we'll just do this here in the workshop here instead of sending it away to FF grip for a warranty repair. So let's get on there and get it fixed up. Now, like I say, this isn't a complicated repair. It's going to be mainly a strip, a wee bit of a clean down here, and locking the tool holder back on with a bit of Loctite or something. Like I say, this is built like a Makita. Unlike the Bosch ones, the tool holder's locked on with a couple of pins. These ones here are actually screwed on. So it's got a 3-inch chisel on it, which probably added to why it started unscrewing. For actually hammering and using it as a pry bar and twisting it, generally can't start unscrewing the tool holder. Pop off the cap. Should be circle up underneath. Pull that out. Seen some work anyway. It's not to say it hasn't done nothing. Give this all a clean out as well. It's built very much like the Makita. 2 pins for holding on your chuck. Need rollers here, or balls, for actually locking the rotation. So you can rotate your chisel to a different position. You pull up on this sleeve to release the balls and they turn. This one doesn't turn here, she's actually unthreading itself. The whole tool holder's coming off. So let's say that's unscrewed itself and oil's got on the threads, causing it to become very slack. So this should be a very simple fix. Shouldn't need to do too much to it. Probably just mainly be strap and clean. Mainly just need to clean in here, just to remove the oil. Maybe top up the grease a little bit as well, because some of it has come out. And there's probably going to be oil underneath this cover too. How does that actually come off? Take this off anyway. Just going to put a bit of grease onto it. Take it, this holds on. This front sleeve. Yeah, it does. Two little lips here, look. So top plate has to come off before to release the cover. So yeah, a bit of grease down in there too. Clean that out. Clean off this grease. I think that should be it. There's nothing actually wrong with the hammer section up in here. So leave that alone. I think it's hammering fine. It's just this here keeps on screwing. Clean that. And we'll just clean this out. Good heavy tool holder on it as well. She's not light duty. She's built very, very similarly to the Makita, which is the HM0810 or something. Right, clean this all out and get it rebuilt. Right, so that's it clean. The actual threads inside aren't actually damaged. So should you get away with just actually threading this back on again. Re-grease everything first before we put it back together again. Just like any other hammer. Just try to keep the grease off of these threads. Just going to put a lump of Loctite onto that. That can drop on there. Actual striker bolt then. Now I'm using a heavier Bosch grease in this. This actually has a fairly light grease. The reason I'm using the heavier stuff is because it's sitting here. That's it. But inside, I will actually use just the lighter stuff. A wee bit in there. That washer's meant to be in there too. Now on this has actually like a cheaper version of a Nurlock washer. It's actually knurled on one side and not the other. So let's say the knurled side must be going onto the aluminium, so that's going to deform more. So before I put that on, I'm going to put on some Loctite. And when I say some, I mean a good lump of it, to make sure this doesn't come off again. Might be a little bit annoying if it ever comes on for repair again. Might be actually quite difficult to get it off with that much on. I don't actually want this coming off again for now. Just use a little spanner then to actually tighten it up. Top up the grease in there too, just a wee touch. That grease is already in it. The original stuff was probably the same colour as that Bosch one, white grease. As you can see, it's already had a bit of a hard life. And this end, there's a clear seal on the bottom, make sure that's in place. And actually that goes on after. So this here holds on, this here cover. Start them threads first, the screws, because they're going to aluminium. Don't want to be cross threading them. Starting a new thread in the housing. That's the hammer ready. Now just work on the tool holder, the tool pipe. A little bit of heavier grease on here. Mainly just to hold on the steel balls. And obviously some on the pins for the tool holder. That's in. Sleeve over the top. Plastic selector over it. Larger C-clip holds that in. We put the spring on, put on the two holders, two stops. Spring's not the best fit there. Maybe it is. Sleeve on, and a washer. Then your C-clip to hold it all down. Cap over the top of that. Stick the handle back together. So clamping that, it's quite strong. Actually grips the screw. Even the Bosch one's a slack fit, so I have to squeeze this on to hold the screw in place. This here can actually just hold itself. one handle, and then 2 screws at the back, which technically doesn't even need to come out. You just hold on this back plastic cover. And that's it. One FF grip hammer, with a tool holder reattached. The DH5 MX Pro. Just give her a wee quick test. Make sure she's hammering all right. Now, it's a 240 volt machine. Don't think you actually get them on 110. I think they only come on 240 volt. Now they are actually classed as a professional machine, not suited to somebody going to be using it all day long every day as their go-to everyday tool, but they are a very good option for even a professional tradesman that do need a tool but just don't use it all the time. So somebody like a brickie or a plumber or something, they do need a hammer, but they wouldn't be using it all day long every day, just the odd time. They just want to have one in the van instead of going renting one every once in a while. Very good option that way. Do get them on for the repair the odd time, but not all that often, because boys that we're generally selling them to don't use them all the time. But that's why we sell these here, because when they do need to come on for repair, they can be fixed. And as you can see on the FF Grip site, this is the hammer here, the DH5 MX Pro. You can buy all the bits for it, just like a Bosch or a Makita, Metabo, wont, whatever. Professional grade tool with all the parts available, not anti-big grip assemblies. You can actually buy each and every part. You get the handle as an assembly, and this handle, and the hammer pipe and aluminium body here come together, but everything else is separate. Every single individual little o-ring, washer, sleeve and screw, individual brushes, all separate. So whenever these actually go wrong and need repaired, they can actually be fixed. Now, they might be able to be fixed and you can get the spare parts, but it's not to say it's quick. All the parts are available, but it can take a little bit of time to get the spare parts on. But this one doesn't need any, so we'll just see what she's running like here now. That's her. She's sounding good, hammering properly, but then again she would need to be. She's only a few weeks old, but everything else is still working on it as well. Tool rotation still rotates. Chuck and everything's working fine. Just whenever he's running now, the tool holder shouldn't actually unscrew on him, but I might just actually let this sit for a day now before giving the boy a ring, just to give that blue lock type time to actually set, so it definitely doesn't unscrew. There's not much point in me giving it back to him today and then him going out and using this here for 3 or 4 hours straight and the thing's starting to unscrew again. When that Loctite set, there should be nothing wrong with it. Anyway, that's her folks. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this wee quick FF grip repair. Only a wee simple one, but at least it can be fixed up. That's her. Cheers.